ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
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 ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। सहनावतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मामृतङ्गमय। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। Good morning. So on Wednesday and Friday you had online class. How do you like online class? Is it okay? You want to have more of online classes or offline? Offline means you have to travel to this place, right? ఇబ్బంది అనిపించట్లేదు రావటం? You prefer only online class, offline class? Okay. Today my subject is real education. I have already spoken something on education, but there is a lot to speak on that. So choose subject. Please see page number 17, an important quote of Swamiji. This time is not sufficient for me to explain the full scope of the quote, but I will try my best to convey you the gist of the essence of that quote. The first quote in the page: education is the manifestation of the perfection already in man. Therefore, the only duty of the teacher in both cases is to remove all obstructions from the way. Right, leave it there. Education is the manifestation of perfection already in human being. So there is that completeness in every human being. There is that perfection. There is that all knowledge. The goal of education is to help the individual to manifest it, to express it. Yesterday, I had a couple, they brought their daughter here. She is studying first year intermediate. She doesn't want to go to school. The parents are telling both of them are central government officers. She never liked going to school. So they have been forcing her to go to school all these years. I think if you give an option to children, a child, would you like to go to school or would you prefer to keep at home? What would be their option mostly? Majority? స్కూల్కి పోతావా ఇంట్లో ఉండాలంటే 80% of the children will opt, I will stay back, I will not go to school. Why school has become such a boring place for them? Why they don't want to go? Parents force them, compel them. What else to do? Their parents are employed, both of them are not at home. How to engage the child? So they compel the children to go to school. What else you will do? But if you give a choice to the child, most of them prefer to stay back at home. Why school has become such a bad place for them? And what is happening in our schools? Conventional schools. There are a few schools which are an exception, but in majority of the schools what goes is this. There is a syllabus set by state board. Teachers are asked to complete that syllabus in 200 days, or 365 days and 150 days or holidays, different festivals. I think around 200 working days are there for schools. So in 200 working days and they have to complete that syllabus. There is mathematics, there is social studies, there is science, there is English, there is regional language. Teacher after teacher comes and whatever that is there in the book, actually they explain to the child. It basically what they try to do is they try to transfer the information that is there in the book into the mind of the child. It's just transfer of information from book to the brain. So what is that book contains? The ideas or thoughts or information generated in some other mind. Yes or no? పుస్తకాల్లో ఉన్నటువంటి ఐడియాస్ని పిల్లల మైండ్లోకి పంపించాలి. పుస్తకాల్లో ఉన్న ఐడియాలు ఎక్కడి నుంచి వచ్చినాయి? ఫ్రమ్ వేర్ దీస్ ఐడియాస్ హ్యావ్ కమ్? ఫ్రమ్ ది మైండ్ ఆఫ్ another human being. This is what is happening. It's actually an information transfer exercise. So they are made to sit just like that, like passive listeners. For about 10 to 15 years this goes on. Naturally the child becomes dull. Schooling becomes boring, terribly boring. Then how else to engage them? See, no two individuals, no two children have the same aptitude. Somebody may be interested in music, somebody may be interested in sports, somebody may be interested in engineering, allied activities. Different children have different tastes. So in a class of 50 students, at least you have to classify them into 7 groups or 8 groups. One group is interested in music, art and dance. Okay? You have to engage them with that kind of activity more. Not that they will not do academics. They will do academics. But they are interested more in these things. 50% academics, 50% this, music, dance and art. And literature probably. And there is another group of students who are more interested in play, sports. Okay, 50% academics, remaining 50% should be sports for them. There are other children who may be interested in, you just put them in the midst of, kind of, cows and, calves, and they will be so passionate about doing that thing. Maybe they are interested in dairy kind of thing, in agriculture, and there may be few children who will be interested in, engineering allied kind of activities. So you just put them, at least 7, 8. But our school ecosystem is so rigid today. It is so narrow. There is no scope actually to train the child according to his or her aptitude there. But syllabus is there. Syllabus has to be crammed into the mind of the child, and child has to prepare for the exam, and child has to get good grades and marks. So that's why they find it boring. What you need to do is, for human being, there are 2 aspects. One is actually intellect, another is heart, the center of feeling. You are focusing only on intellect. Rather, the education even doesn't actually help them to sharpen their intellect. Does it really help to bring out their creativity? It's not really helping them. Intellectually also they will become dumb over a period of time. They will not become that sharp. Yesterday the parent also was telling the same thing. By hearting few things, by accumulating information into your brain, you don't become smarter. Today that is a redundant exercise, because computer there is so much of storage there, right? So much of information it can store. If you use your brain also just to store information, how different you are from computer. It does better than you, better than your memory. Your memory is very limited, right? Compared to computer memory, our memory is, right? Very small, very little. Then why you want to store up things here when there is a gadget available to store the information outside? So fundamentally, you have not figured out the real purpose of education. That's why Swami is saying the goal of education is manifestation of perfection already in the individual. For example, you take the child to a hospital and ask the child to put one fruit in the hands of patients over there. పిల్లల్ని ఒక హాస్పిటల్కి తీసుకెళ్ళాం. అక్కడ పేషెంట్స్ చాలామంది ఉన్నారు. దెర్ ఆర్ మెనీ పేషెంట్స్ దే ఇన్ ద హాస్పిటల్. యూ ఆస్క్ ద చైల్డ్ టు పుట్ వన్ ఫ్రూట్ ఇన్ ద హ్యాండ్స్ ఆఫ్ ఈచ్ ఆఫ్ ద పేషెంట్స్ అండ్ లెట్ ద చైల్డ్ టెల్ టు ద పేషెంట్ దట్ ఐ విల్ ప్రే ఫర్ యువర్ స్పీడీ రికవరీ. మీరు తొందరగా కోలుకోవాలని నేను భగవంతుని ప్రార్థిస్తాను పిల్లలు చెప్తారు వాళ్ళకి. ఇప్పుడు ఏం జరుగుతుంది మీరు చెప్పండి నాకు. వాట్ విల్ హ్యాపెన్ దెన్? The child will feel good about himself or herself. Okay? I have done something, I have touched one life, I have given joy to one person today. That actually expands their consciousness, right? That expands their heart. Feeling, that is, center of feeling is here, heart, not here. That sustains life in fact, but you are not actually giving any scope for the child to expand that consciousness. What is the problem? Suppose school managements are interested in taking the children to orphanages, in old age homes, in the hospitals, right? They will get to see the different aspect of life. Because there is suffering in the world, they learn to think. Why there is suffering? Then they will become philosophers. You slowly help the child to manifest his Buddhahood. There is that Buddha in every one of us, but it is latent now. ప్రతి మనిషిలో కూడా బుద్ధుడు దాగి ఉన్నాడు, రైట్? ఆ దాగి ఉన్న బుద్ధుడిని కనుక్కోవడానికి ఎడ్యుకేషన్. సో సా విద్యా యా విముక్తయే, అకార్డింగ్ టు అవర్ స్క్రిప్చర్స్, సా విద్యా యా విముక్తయే, దట్ ఈస్ ఎడ్యుకేషన్ విచ్ టేక్స్ యూ టువర్డ్స్ ఫ్రీడమ్, టువర్డ్స్ లిబరేషన్, టువర్డ్స్ ట్రూత్, టువర్డ్స్ గాడ్. So in that direction, our education system is not helping. So you just ask the child one day to go to an orphanage. You take the children to orphanages, where actually orphan children are there. Let them give some chocolates to those orphan children. His consciousness expands. Or let them go to a government school where poor children are there. Children from underprivileged sections of the society are studying. You give a school bag to those children, or give few notebooks to those children. That is how actually, by touching another life, you grow in life. You grow in happiness. You grow in joy. Today we deprive them of that joy. We have limited the scope of education completely. Education means you have to stand in class, sit in classroom and take information from teacher. That's very, 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 outdated concept of education and very narrow definition of education. That's why children, they don't get any joy in schools, because you are not helping them to grow in spirit, to grow in consciousness. Rather, they develop fear. Why? You ask the child, every child, to come class first. అవును కదా, బాగా చదవండి, మంచి మార్కులు తెచ్చుకోండి అంటాం. క్లాస్ ఫస్ట్ రావాలని తల్లిదండ్రులు చెప్తారు, టీచర్స్ చెప్తారు. అందరికీ క్లాస్ ఫస్ట్ వస్తుందా? రాదు. What you are asking me is to compete with my fellow students. Almost for 15 to 20 years, what I have been doing is competing with my fellow students. In the process, what you do is, you make them your enemies. May not be fighting a physical battle. Okay, but practically when you ask me to compete with them, I make them my enemies. Because వాళ్ళు కూడా నా అంతా తెలివితేటలు ఉంటే వాళ్ళ క్లాస్ ఫస్ట్ వస్తుంది, కాబట్టి వాళ్ళ క్లాస్ ఫస్ట్ రాకూడదంటే వాళ్ళు నాకన్నా డమ్గా ఉండాలి. ఓకే, యూ షుడ్ బి ఎ dull individual. If he is equally smart like me, okay, he will be a tough competitor for me. So this is how actually we are teaching the child. Ultimately the child becomes totally exclusive. He gets disconnected from the rest of the life. And so much so that after 30 or 35, when the child actually, because of his academic brilliance or intellectual brilliance, has occupied a position of power, now you ask the child to work for the country, to work for the society, to feel for fellow human beings, he won't be able to feel. You never help the child to cultivate the feeling. That is the biggest problem. Psychologically you will become distorted. Others are different, I am different. So, but if you just look at all the great people in the world, how they have become great, they have identified themselves with all the life. They could effortlessly integrate themselves with the life that exists around. So instead of becoming inclusive, you just become exclusive, because in the very process actually makes you a different kind of individual. So 15 years you have asked me to compete with my fellow students. Instead you could have asked me to identify with them, okay? To identify with them, to integrate myself with them, to just consider them. Your success is more important than my own success. You are more important than myself. In this way, when you move forward, you will expand your consciousness. But we are not actually allowing the child to expand his or her consciousness, the conventional school of education. That's why actually the joyless faces you see. వాళ్ళ ముఖాల్లో ఏమీ ఆనందం కనిపించదు మనకి because of this only primarily, fundamentally. So I think we have to rethink, we have to reorient our education system, we have to redefine the scope of it in the light of teachings of a great personality like Vivekananda. This one quote, if the policymakers understand, the goal of education is manifestation of perfection, manifestation of completeness, manifestation of truth that already exists in every one of us. And I think we can create a beautiful education ecosystem, and where actually we can make best of the human beings, we can make great individuals, we can make Mahatmas, we can produce Mahatmas through the education system. But we need to redefine it, and we need to understand the full scope and ambit of it. Okay? Thank you this much for today. Here is anybody who can speak Kannada. Last time I came to your classrooms, one Amma told that my mother tongue is Kannada. Today she is not here. You are Kannada, Amma. So, you are also, Amma. Please, after the class, kindly come to me once, okay? Thank you so much.